afternoon, everyone. This is Mulo, the host of the Beats Buzz, hosted by Big Little at Bush Radio. And today I'm here with a very special guest, Stephen Thomas. And today we are going to be talking about music business, the education around music business, registration, compensation, and everything that you need to know as a musical artist in order to protect your works and also get the due compensation for your works. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi guys, thank you Mulo, thank you Big Little. My name's, as you said, Stephen Thomas. You can also call me SLZ, Master Beats. Just a little intro about myself. I've been a producer for more than 10 years. I've interned with Jonathan G. Shaw in Johannesburg. I've actually worked with a Japanese artist, so I'm an international producer. And I've actually released a Japanese album that you can find on YouTube called Inishi. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Thank you.
Cheers.
And to basically open up the discussion about the education about
Mm-hmm.
music business, the registration aspect for all artists, I wanted to kind of ask you, could you take us through the logistical process of properly registering you guys both as artists for
Mhm.
your work and properly splitting up that stream of income? So basically what I'm asking is, what did you guys do in order to make sure that you are both compensated as people
Mhm.
sign to these organizations?
Right. All right. So, firstly, I'd like to say I am an independent artist, an independent producer. So, all of the administration I do myself. As the producer, I do take on that responsibility, but I do educate a lot of the artists that I work with. So, the Japanese artist Yuto, aka Monk, you can also find him online. He actually had a very easy process because he's very hardworking. We met over Twitter, and we just started chatting on email and so on. And one of the first records we done was in 2021. I emailed him the beat, and I left him for like a month, and I didn't hear from him. And he just popped out. He was like, "Hey, I got the record." He sent me the stems, and I was able to mix it and master it and put out the record. The easy part about that was it was very clear. I produce the beat, so I get 50% split for composition as a composer, and I split the other 50 directly with him as an author. So when I registered it, I registered with Sambro, and the nice part is he gave me all of his details, such as his name, surname, phone number, email, all of those type of details they'll need. And I also checked with the CMO in Japan. You can check them out. It's JREC or JRAC, something like that. And I sent them an email as well, notifying that I have made a notification with one of the artists as a resident in Japan. And quite swiftly, like in a day or so, I got an email back from them stating that no worries, we've noticed your notification has been sent through. It's with Sambro. Once the royalties are split or any payments are due, Sambro will interact with JRAC or with the CMO in Japan, and they will distribute the royalties or the splits evenly to him as well. So it was actually very easy. I didn't have a difficulty or any blockers in that regard. And he was also very understanding. So we were more happy to make a record, especially for South Africa, as a South African producer and a Japanese artist. We were trying to push the boundaries of the music industry. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And for our new business education viewers here, could you explain to us what exactly a CMO or collective management organization is, like SAMRO and JRAC? What exactly do they do for artists?
Right. So, in regards with CMOs, they do handle the collections and splits of royalties as well as administration for these artists. If you look at South Africa, we've got Sambro, we've got Capasso, we've got Sampra, we've also got Impra, and there's a new one for publishers as well. It's Mpasa or MPASA. They actually deal with publishing. So if you want to be your own publisher, they can help you set that up. I recommend people should check out that website, MPASA. ASA.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so there's quite a few of them. Even internationally, you get Sony, you get there's so many. My
ASCAP for the
yeah,
US.
ASCAP is. And the nice part about them is you register once, you send through your details, you notify, you send your notifications of work, and that is kept on the system. So whenever your music is played in a pub or a restaurant, or even if you do any live performances, they do collect royalties on your behalf. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever your music is played in a public setting, especially for performers,
Yeah.
it's very good. So if you're a performing artist, it's a must that you are registered with Sambro.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I understand. And also, because you brought up the fact of publishing,
Mm-hmm.
before this interview that I'm doing here, I was watching a popular artist called Tidra Moses, and she was basically talking about how it's weird in publishing because there's 200%. There's the songwriter's share
Mm-hmm.
and the publisher's share. And you
Mm-hmm.
said there's a new entity called Mpasa
Yeah.
for the publishers. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to ask you, what's the difference between signing up under Samro as a publisher
Mm-hmm.
and songwriting and songwriter, collecting
Mm-hmm.
both of those streams, and just registering as an individual publishing entity under Mpasa, the new one?
All right. So to actually make this very very easy to understand,
Mm-hmm.
once you let's break it down to like a new artist. You just recorded a song, and you want to put it on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
That's you publishing. That's it. You've just published the song because in that case, you've already gone to a DSP.
Mm-hmm.
The DSP would be Spotify in that case. They ask you all similar questions, and you publishing it online.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole process of publishing has changed. Whereas before, publishing was basically the first music business, where let's say Beethoven or Mozart actually wrote a score. They'd need to print books and publish those books, and that's how publishing actually works.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just for your authors. It's there to protect you as an author
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you get some type of payment from your work. In terms of like, how can I say now, as a musician, it's a similar thing. When you write music on a piano, it's a score. You're also writing in that sense. So you need to register it as a publisher. So when it comes to, do I have a company? Should I go with a publishing company? It's really up to you, depending on what the publishing company offers. A lot of these things you can do on your own. You don't have to go through that whole process. The nice part about it, I'd say, when it comes to publishing specifically, let's say you're a music producer
Mm-hmm.
and you have a catalog of 200, 300, 400 songs. And there recently has been a case with this rapper, what's his name? Something Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He actually signed with Gallo, a publishing deal with lots of thousands of rand. So
Mm-hmm.
they purchase your catalog. If you have a really good catalog, I'd rather sell my catalog to a good publishing company that
Mm-hmm.
can put my music in the right places,
Okay.
and actually get it into the right atmospheres, especially clubs, overseas, depending on what the publishing company does offer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And when you
Mm.
say you sell it to them, is
Mm.
that simply giving them the right to administer your catalog or owning a percentage of copyright? Because that might confuse viewers as well. So what do you mean by
Right.
sell?
Right. So basically, they actually approach the artist in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have leverage and you know your music is worth, let's say, 100,000 rand.
Mm-hmm.
A publishing company can come to you in this circumstance and tell you, okay, your music is worth this much. We can triple it if you sell us. We're willing to offer you so much, 2 million for your catalog. And then it's up to you to, obviously you'll need lawyers to work out an agreement and so on, but it's really based on the leverage that you have and what you can bring to them. A lot of artists, they really bank on their publishing because you can be making music and working for artists and working in studios and not making money.
Yeah.
We all know that as
Yeah.
artists, you can be living paycheck to paycheck or just getting paid for performances.
Mhm.
But if a publishing deal comes along and they offer you like 50 to 80,000 rand for your catalog, and they're going to promote it for you, put it
Mhm.
on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever, Facebook, you know, add revenue streams, all
Mhm.
of that.
Yeah,
So
and also sync and film and adverts and
sync and
stuff like
film.
that.
So yes, the publishing companies do actually would promote you to Netflix or whatever. So it depends on what they offer and what you want out of your music.
Mhm.
Um, and that it really depends on leverage in that case because
Mhm.
you can make a lot of money, but you can also lose money.
No,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. And how does a publisher represent an artist or songwriter or producer
Mhm.
differently than a traditional record label deal?
All right. So the publisher in that case would just deal with the compositions and the writing of the work.
Okay.
They would administer that, and the publisher would send it to, let's say, like Netflix and so
Mhm.
on. So that's the only process they assist with
Mhm.
the intellectual property, the IP.
Okay, I understand.
Whereas a record label, they handle more the recordings itself. They will have a say maybe on the master recording, or if you recorded at a
Mhm.
specific studio with a specific producer, splits will be arranged by the producer
Mhm.
and so on. So the artist has less. You actually don't need to involve yourself in that because the record label is supposed to do that for you. Um, which sometimes doesn't work out for the
Mhm.
artist. So it's just something to keep in mind as well as the idea of a record label now in 2025 is not the same. You don't get record labels. You can't just walk into a record label anymore. They
Mhm.
aren't any. Record labels basically are doing similar work to what a publisher would do, but taking more of the rights.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? They have more percentage in your splits of royalties and so on. Whereas a publisher can only help you with your written work, just the music that
Okay.
you've registered and your compositions, obviously.
Okay, I
Mhm.
understand. And just to feed off of that, you mentioned the master as well.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you, could you explain the different types of royalties as they relates to
Mhm.
the master and the lyrical composition? Because a lot of people don't understand that in songwriting,
Mhm.
anyone can be a songwriter. Let's say I asked a pianist to write a melody for me.
Mhm.
They're entitled to the songwriter's share, but can you give us the different types of royalties as it relates to the compositional aspect and the actual recording aspect that gets uploaded onto Spotify's and digital providers?
DSPs,
Yeah.
nice. A very good question, Mulo. Right. So, firstly, you get your mechanical rights, right?
Mhm.
You get your performance rights or your performance royalties. You get your neighboring royalties or neighboring rights, and lastly, your sync fees. So,
Mhm.
sync fees obviously is like we were speaking about film, radio, TV, adverts, and so on. So, how I like to break it down to my artists when we're recording, the mechanical right is the hardware in a way. It's the,
Mhm.
the the actual recorded file. You know what I mean? It's when you go with, cause so I'm registered with Capasso, and they assist with mechanical rights. So once you register with Capasso, there's quite a plethora of information they give you about the process, and once you filled everything out, I guarantee you have a greater understanding of it.
Mhm.
And mechanical rights could just be the beat, especially like if it's house or amapiano. Performance rights is now the artist. That's
Mhm.
the artist actually going to go perform the song and
Mhm.
actually be on a stage, or like Big Little Media, you
Mhm.
actually performing the song. So that will register with Sambro, and you'd get a royalty split for your performance rights. So even if you were a guitarist, a bassist, or whatever, if you performed on that recording, you get a royalty. The
Mhm.
mechanical is a bit different because I feel like it's more for producers and
Yeah.
DJs and so on, where your record, your beat that you made, you can register it and get paid for that. And you can sell that beat and someone can record it and re-register it as a performance royalty. So they'll
Mhm.
get their performance royalty split. You already registered it as a mechanical, so you have ownership of the mechanical rights. So it is a bit tricky when you think about, oh, I'm just going to register my song. I recorded a song, I'm going to go and perform it. But then that's where copyright comes in. You're like, oh, was this a downloaded beat? Did I get it off YouTube?
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. So the nice part of, like, when artists work with me, all my productions are original. It's completely me. I make everything from the mix straight down to the master, and I empower my artists and educate them and say, hey, this is your song. Nobody else has this kind of song. We're gonna register it. I'll register the mechanical right, but once you put your vocals on it, it's your song. Your performance rights is
Yeah.
there. I don't actually like getting involved because I feel like I take away from the artist's power in a sense.
Yes.
And if I take his performance royalties, it's not fair. You know, I feel like unless I wrote lyrics or I performed on the song, that's the only time I'd negotiate for a performance royalty split. Other than that, the artist who recorded it or came up with the idea, he should get that performance royalty split. From my understanding, that's what I think is fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, with sync licensing, I'd say, and neighboring rights, that's more when you have now your publishing deals and you're trying to get your music overseas or in film and stuff like that. And it is very important because, especially like for producers like myself in the gaming industry, they really do need producers for that. So syncing up and getting your music registered for that purpose is very good as well. Very lucrative.
Yeah, I understand. And what about like multifaceted musicians and artists who do
Mm-hmm.
both the songwriting, the production, the compositional aspect, and basically people who don't just stick to one stream, they do everything. Would you say they should also sign up as a publisher, author, and also for the mechanical rights, or do they only sign up with one organization and that one royalty stream is the only thing that they should be getting? What about artists who fit under the whole umbrella?
Yes. Right. So this one, I'm gonna go off the beaten path with this one. So this one is very, very special to me. Reason being, um, the way I look at it. If you let me give you an example, Kabza the Small, he has a publishing company, Piano Hub, right? So if you see how big Amapiano is right now in South Africa and globally, you understand why he has a publishing company. So he can own all of his rights and he can have the master of the performance rights. So if he goes and DJs, he makes money. If his music is played on Spotify, he makes money with his mechanical royalties. So for him as an artist like that, who's at the forefront of a whole genre, I think it's perfect that he has a publishing company. It makes sense because you wouldn't want somebody who doesn't know about Amapiano or the culture or the movement publishing your music. You get what I mean? But if you're a rapper that started 3 or 4 years ago, just started getting gigs, and you know you have a good catalog, but you don't know what to do with it. You know, you don't. You've got good music, but there isn't an avenue for you to make money from it. That's when I'd say seek out a publisher. And Capasso is very good at that because they send you a publisher's list every year with all the publishers in South Africa. And you need to, this is also very important, you need to know what the publisher actually deals with. Do they deal with hip hop? Do they deal with rock? Do they deal with gospel? Because gospel is a very big genre in South Africa where 50% of our publishers just do gospel. You know what I mean? So it's very hard for just a normal average artist getting into the industry because you might register with the wrong publishing company and never make a cent. But then again, it goes into research and understanding and, you know, finding out, asking the right questions. So for me, I'd really say it depends on the situation, but you got to be smart about it. Think about what do you need as an artist, because the game has really changed. There's people on TikTok now making money that's not signed to no label. They have no publisher. They have nothing. They don't even have a Sambro account. They're just making music on TikTok and putting it out there. So yeah.
Yeah, I see that. So would you say for independent artists to do everything from
Mm.
write their work, produce their work, engineer their work, do you think they should sign up with all three from Capasso, Sempra, or and what is the other one?
Impra,
Emperor as well.
ASCAP, yeah. So
Yes.
I'd say, look, there is fees.
Yeah.
Never forget there's gonna
There's
be fees.
fees.
I know Sambro is free. Capasso, there is a one-time fee, just a couple of R100. It's not that much. I know at Sampra as well, there is a fee that you pay, and you load your bank details because they need to pay you out your royalties, right? If you're an artist that has no income, I wouldn't think that it's a necessity that you go and pay all of these institutions when you're not even making money to eat at night. You know, I wouldn't recommend that you spend all that money on a hope. You know,
Yeah.
spend your money on your craft, spend your money on a good guitar, on a good mixer, so you make really good music. From there, once you're able to stand on your feet and earn a living as a musician, then you can go and say, okay, I need to register my catalog now, and let me take a really deep dive into my music. What does it mean? How can I market it? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because that's 70% of the music industry is marketing. You can have the best instruments, the best studio, but if you're not putting it out there, it goes nowhere. So once you've got the good catalog, once you've got enough to sustain yourself and actually earn a living as a musician, register your music, register with everything. Because if you don't have a publisher, your music can get stolen.
Yeah.
If it's not registered and it's not published and somebody finds it, they can take it and claim it as their own. And nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go through that process. What I suggest is speak to a lawyer. Definitely speak to a
Number one.
lawyer. Yeah, speak to a lawyer. Tell them this is my music. This is how much I think it's worth. This is its value. You always have to put a value, because if you just make beats and make music, people will also just think, he's just making music. It's a hobby. But once you add value to it, brands will come to you. Like you saw how G Star actually was working. They had a brand activation with Youngster CPT.
Damn.
Yeah, and with Snoop Dogg, it was all in the same campaign. So it's about your leverage. How can I associate myself with the image that I know my music fits? You,
Okay.
you get what I mean? It's difficult, but if you make house, you know who listens to house music.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that.
So I understand. So if I can just get this correct,
Hmm.
to give an example, let's say I'm a singer and a songwriter. The only thing I have is my voice and my guitar. Would you only suggest I register with one, i.e., Samro, since I am performing with my voice and my guitar, and then build up enough leverage to then go to a publishing house and say, please, can you represent my catalog? Or would you, as opposed to that, say, register with all of them so you can collect royalty streams for all your rights? Or do you just prefer the first option where I collect one and then seek a publisher out to represent me?
All right. So I'd say if you're a musician, you play instrument, guitar, keyboard, and you sing,
And also produce.
and
Yeah.
also produce. If you're making your own compositions, it's very important that you register your music, whether you have a publisher or not. Register it yourself first, so you can see, okay, this is the split I'm going to give myself. I know I made this track. Everything is myself. I'd suggest that. The reason being, you wouldn't want somebody to just copy your music. Somebody can take a small phrase, and it's your music,
Yeah.
and there's nothing you can do about it. And especially if you're a musician that does everything themselves, it's very heartbreaking. I'd suggest the smartest thing to do is to register with Sambro and Capasso and RISA. RISA as well is very important. They give you your ISCR codes.
IRC,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry. And that is very important when you actually, even if you go to a publisher, they're gonna ask you for those for that information,
Yeah.
all of that. So it's good to to clue yourself up on those things before you even get into a publishing deal, before you even go and get a distribution deal, any of that. Clue yourself up on these terms and make yourself comfortable with them. So if you are in a situation where you can get a deal that's worthwhile, like someone's going to pay you 50,000 to record in their studio, not a record deal, just a recording deal.
Yeah.
So it depends how you're going to make it work. It's a very, very slippery slope.
Oh, and also by recording deal, are you
Mm.
talking within the context of a composer being outsourced by someone else to simply write on a track and then they get royalties based on solely the writing, not the production aspect? Is that what you mean?
That's what I mean. Yes, like if you think about this American producer Benny Blanco, he's done so many pop hit singles, and all he does is he hums the melodies. He doesn't write anything, but he makes the beats himself, and then he calls up Justin Bieber or Demi Lovato just to come and do. But he's done everything. He's already written the music. He's put the chorus together. All they need to do is just write or hire a songwriter in that case to write the music for the performing artist. So it's interesting because you can actually see now, oh, this is how the music industry works. If I know I'm a good songwriter, I can put value on my music. I can come. I know you can sing the song good, and I know I wrote it well. So yeah.
No, I get that. I get that. And in terms of sync licensing, and I know we didn't cover it properly. So, what sync licensing basically is, the sync part, it refers to the administrative license that you give someone else to use your music in a piece of media, whether that be an advert or film. That's what we refer to. And in terms of sync licensing, would you say that's better for songwriters or producers, given that there is kind of a formula depending on the publishing house representing the genre or what the client or company wants musically? So would you say that's more for songwriters or producers?
I would say sync licensing would be for both of them. Especially like nowadays with Netflix and like Blood and Water, you see
Yeah.
there's so many South African
A lot of South African
songs.
popular songs.
Yeah, and that was so empowering for me to actually see, oh, this is possible, I wouldn't want to be left out of that. So I'd say whether you are any type of musician in South Africa, try and get your sync licensing, because you never know what film could use that potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, how would you suggest someone new to it gets into it? Would you say they seek out a publisher or try as best as possible to market themselves? Because there is a split between you and your publisher when it comes to money.
Yes. Right. So in a case like that, I'd say with, like for Blood and Water, they probably have a publishing company that deals with that specifically
Yeah.
for that show. So market to them, send them your music, if you want something like that. So you got to be very intentional about it. If you're going to work with a publisher, make sure this is the right publisher, and they're going to get you, if you want to be on games or Fortnite or whatever, you find out what publisher is doing that. Unless you've got a friend in the connections that does that, who's working there, then there's another way in, without having to go through a publisher. But the safe route in that case would be syncing your music, registering, and sending it through. And most of the time they don't accept your music. You'll have to send
Yeah.
like 50, 60, 70 different songs, and maybe one or two would probably get selected. So yeah, I'd say go for it. Yeah.
No, I understand. And because when I was speaking to you before this interview, you said there is different publishers for different genres, from house, hip hop, representing Amapiano as well. In terms of the artists who say they don't stick to one genre, because a lot of artists, specifically mainstream artists, a lot of them, the pop ones, they love to do a hot pot of genres in their bodies of work. So let's say you're an independent artist and you follow that same structure just without the mainstream aspect. Would you say they seek out a publisher or do this thing that I've kind of seen where they kind of start their own publishing company because they can collect the songwriter share and the publisher share? So which one would you suggest?
Look, I would say, because I am a multi-genre producer. I have a house album also. The Japanese album actually came after the house album. So imagine that. I made a normal house album, like South African style. and then went into Japanese rap,
Mhm.
straight up hip hop.
Yeah.
So for me, I would want my own publishing company because I want to control all of that. You know, I
Yeah.
want to have all my rights in that case, and that's specific to me. I think also you can have more than one publisher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can have, if you're making house music or you're mixing and mastering for house or gospel or something,
Mhm.
it's okay. Send it to the gospel publishers, you know, so long you know your music's getting out and you're receiving something in return. Um, I feel like if it's more personal, more sentimental, if it's something like your project that is your baby, then start your own,
Mhm.
publishing company. Like there's a really nice guy I met, Ilro, Brandon. He started his own publishing company, and he's really inspiring. He's an independent artist here from Cape Town. He calls himself the what did I say? The doctor. Yeah, he's the Cape Doctor. That's his hip hop name or his nickname. So he has a publishing company, and he's a local guy. He makes
Mhm.
normal hip hop here for the homies, you know,
Yeah.
and he's doing very well. He's got features with the game, you know. He put out a song with Manir C now the other day,
Mm.
and he's actually working with Slicko. I'm sure you know Slicko on Life. He's also a distributor
Yeah.
and a publishing company. So
Yeah.
if you want to put your music out in South Africa, everyone goes to Slicko, and he has a new distribution. Excuse me. He has a new distribution platform. I think it's called Soul Distro.
Told the show.
Yeah, I suggest any artist go and check it out because it's actually there to support up and coming independent artists.
Oh, by
Yeah.
distribution platform, do you mean like a DSP like DistroKid, similar to that, or?
Yeah, so it would be like Linktree, DistroKid.
Mhm.
So you put your music on Apple,
Oh,
Spotify,
he's the
whatever.
middleman for that. That's his
Yeah,
platform.
yeah.
Okay, I understand completely.
Mm.
And also, I wanted to ask about the IRSC codes because
Mhm.
one thing I was talking to with Callie, one of the other hosts at the Big Little Thing, we were talking about the situation with one of the entities you need to register with. The problems they had in terms of royalty allocation was
Mhm.
incorrect metadata. So let's say my song was called Angels and Love,
Mhm.
but I registered that under my DSP with a capital A, but on the actual portal, it's
Mm.
a small,
It's a small A,
yes,
yes, yes.
and that allocation kind of has a mishap. I wanted to ask you,
Mm.
does the IRSC code, does it mitigate that risk, or is it purely there for identification? It doesn't actually correctly, like, say you're going to get your royalty streams
Mm.
indefinitely.
Look, what I can say regarding your identifiers, the IRCS codes, there's quite a few of them. There's four. I can't remember all of them now, but they are very important. Basically, like it indicates, it is an identifier. So if your music is registered now, it's blowing up in Canada or America. That IRCS code is going to become very important. When it comes to metadata, and this was a discussion I had with somebody at Sambro, he says be very, very vigilant with your naming and naming the artist. If there's one mistake, that song's royalty will sit in the backlog and you won't get it. You won't hear there's nothing's going to happen. It will sit there. So they are very, very strict with metadata. That's why in a case like this, for an average person who doesn't really understand these terms and works with these type of administrative codes, a publishing company would be good because they know what to do. They'll be able to figure everything out and register because they deal with that administrative work. As an independent artist, it does become a bit of a hassle. Well, I won't lie. We want to focus on being creative and making music. Now I have to figure out what is my code, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but I'd advise every artist to really, really look into it, do some digging, and try and figure out what is best for them, and just make sure you do it right because once you make a mistake, it can cause a lot of complications down the line.
Yeah, I understand that.
Mhm.
And also, in terms of collecting your royalties from let's say other performance rights organizations. So using the example of your song with the Japanese collaborator you had, let's say that song gets big in Japan. What I've heard for artists is even if you're educated on the entire process of registering, properly logging your intellectual property, a lot of people don't know that you have to individually go to these countries' PROs and say, where are my royalties?
Yes.
So do publishers act as the middlemen and representatives that individually go to every country? Or as artists and independent people, do you have to go yourselves? Let's say, let me email ASCAP, let me email JRAC, these individual company PROs. Is that what you have to do as an independent
Yes,
artist?
definitely. You'd have to follow up. I know so many artists and producers that were sending emails till the morning, just trying to figure out what's going on. Is the song registered? Is it fine? Like this guy, Jonathan Shaw, that I worked with, he had a number one single here in South Africa with a rock band.
South African artist.
Yeah. No, he's a producer. He's my mentor. I interned for him. Yeah, very very good guy. Check him out, Jonathan G. Shaw. And he works. He actually produces for the Flat Shandies. They had a number one hit record. It was like 4 weeks number one or something, and he had issues as well with collecting royalties, from what I understand. But the nice part is he is a lecturer. He understands so much about the music industry, and he actually wrote policies with government, trying to help the industry and actually bring us up to speed, because we are behind. A lot of the policies are very outdated, and there isn't actually like movement. It's just staying there. Nobody's developing these things. No lawyers are really taking their money to invest in these type of policies to protect artists and make it easier. So it's just one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And feeding off of what you're saying, the reason why I emphasize representation for South African artists also, because here at Bush Radio, the building that this whole thing is being hosted by, they were the ones responsible for putting forward the legislation that says South African radio has to play an X amount of South African music. So when I was researching Samro, Sampra, Capasso, one of the board members of Samro at a 2019 summit, he was asked, why do more than 500 million rands in royalties not go to South African artists? And he made a very good example. He said, let's say Drake or someone is at the top of the charts in South African music. The streams and royalties that are generated from that broadcast and radio broadcast of Drake, they're going to send that all the way to America. And if you have the whole top 10 of South Africa's chart toppers being foreign people, we're not going to get the proper due royalties as South African artists. So that's why I push, as you're educating yourself on registering music business, also look at South African artists as well, because the royalties that we do make, they don't really get sent to us because we aren't represented properly in our mainstream of music. Our mainstream of music is quite literally the American mainstream itself. So with that being said, I also wanted to ask you, for sync licensing and basically getting your musical works on adverts and film and stuff like that, would you say the complication exactly when you're looking for a publisher to represent you and your genre, what are some of the mishaps that happen? Because you said you can sign to more than one publisher, but is there any type of deal that says, no, this is exclusive, we're the only ones administering you? And how does that affect artists who do more than one genre?
Right, definitely. So I'm pretty sure that for major artists, e.g. Tyler, whoever, a lot of them, their music, because they're such a in-demand performer, the publishing company would say, no, this is exclusively with us. We're going to give you the best deal. You know what I mean? So that's now when you're going to different boardroom meetings, meeting with different DSPs or different distributors. That's when you need to have your lawyer with you, so they can go over the splits and make sure nobody gets left out or taken advantage of. A lot of the like when you have a manager, let's say, a manager would be the person that actually would oversee that, but sometimes they include too much for themselves. So it would be easier for you as an artist you know, give yourself the upper hand and actually understand what is going on. Why are they coming to me and asking for my music? What is it in my catalog that they want? So you can actually figure out, oh, okay, now I know how to work the system to my benefit. You know, you do not want to sign a contract that says in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Whenever you see that in a contract in perpetuity, that's where those complications come up.
Yeah.
You know, so it really is up to you. If your dream as an artist is to get signed and get the biggest publishing deal, you know, then that's okay. You can sign your life away. It's fine, you know, because you work for those people for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And as an artist, I feel once the it becomes a job, you start losing the art, you start losing the creativity, because now you're just a factory. You need to put out music, you need to, and you've seen so many genres come and go because of that. When they try and monetize the music and make it not fun anymore, it becomes a
No,
job.
I get that, but I also believe that the lack of that creative and artistic aspect comes when you're signed to an engine that boxes you into, let's say, a specific genre, or let's say you have to do this in order for us as a company to get specific results. So that's why I love emphasizing that independent artists should register across all platforms, and as much as it is a hassle, be your own publisher. And with that being said, the next question I wanted to ask is more so about getting into the portal of each of these different entities.
Alright.
When you're registering, it's very easy for your registration to get lost in the mail. But the thing is, you need this as an artist. So can you walk us through the process of you registering with these separate entities like Sampra, and things like that? What is that like step-by-step active process like?
Right. So I'd say it's very tedious. It's a lot of questions and answers. What I'd suggest, or what works for me, is I usually dedicate a specific day in the week. So I'll say Wednesday I'm doing admin. You know, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna go through all of my nitty gritties. I'm gonna go look at all the records I've done over the month and start uploading and loading time, you know, your timestamps, making sure, okay, this artist, let me phone him and notify him, hey, I'm going to register this song. Are you cool with it? You know, so it's a lot of, you get to that stage now where you actually just picking up the phone, sending emails, and it feels like you're in an office, you're doing corporate work now. But it's also fun because it actually, it teaches you so much about the music industry, and it lets you know that this is a real job. It's not a game. Like you know, parents, when you say, hey, I'm gonna be a musician, and you're like, no, that's not a real job, you can't do it.
No, there's a whole business to it.
Yeah, they don't see it because we don't nowadays we don't look at the hard work. You know, they don't look at those days when you have to sit and do registrations and sit and send your music and your notifications through. We don't consider that. We look at the artist and say, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You know, so the nice part about it is when you get to that stage when you're registering music, enjoy it. Enjoy it, because this is where your money is gonna come from. It's not nice. It's not nice, but the sooner you change your mentality or your attitude about it, the more freeing it becomes, because you feel even more as an artist. You feel more empowered. If you have a conversation with a CEO or a big executive, you'll be able to stand your ground because you put the work in.
No, I understand. And when it also comes to collaboration, because you did mention that, would you say it wouldn't be in an artist's favor to collaborate with someone who isn't signed under these entities? Because, for an example, why would someone who's an established musician just collaborating with their friends who aren't within the business industry, who don't know about registration, would you say they should collaborate with them, or in order to make admin, logistics, registration, those type of things easier, only collaborate with people signed under PROs?
You see, now that's a very interesting question, because it puts you in a situation where you're like, okay, you a new artist, here's Drake, he wants to do a song with you. You're right. You don't have any registration. You know what I mean? Like you just said, you're not registered with anything. You're not on any sort of CMO or PRO. That's when his publishing company can come and say, no, we can do it for you, but we're gonna take a split.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get what I mean. They can organize it for you. You can be on TV. We're gonna shoot the video and everything, but we're gonna take a split. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So there's your leverage gone. Your leverage is
Yeah.
gone. So if you take yourself serious as an artist, you'll have all of that sorted. Drake can come. We can do the song now. You know that's how
Yeah.
confident you should be as an independent artist. It shouldn't be a thing of I need to figure this out and do. You need to empower yourself to the point where you're like, Drake needs me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the whole thing about leverage.
Yeah, they need
Yeah.
me because if you are confident in your product and you know you're making good music and you registered and you make sure everything, you got your ducks in a row. You get what I mean?
Mhm.
You don't need to worry. Drake will reach out to you.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And feeding off of that example, let's say I'm an independent new artist, Drake wants to collaborate with me. In terms of the contractual agreements that his publishing company drafts up, are they going to kind of base it on your ignorance as an independent artist? Say he's not registered, he doesn't know anything about publishing, we don't see any registered publishers under his name. Are they going to make a decision off of that, or do those splits in terms of collaborating with big artists, do they tend to be not fully in the artist's favor, but there is some fair compensation provided to someone who is new and an
Right.
artist in the industry?
Right. So in that case, I'd say it is important, because the way I'm thinking about it right now, like what you just said, is like if you have your music already, you have the catalog, let's say, and you're an independent artist, and thus they're gonna take advantage of it. It's actually
Yeah.
it's it's gonna happen, but bear in mind that he has a whole team, he has a whole office, a whole building that works with this, and they would only probably reach out to an independent artist if they know they're gonna make money. They see a gap in the market. You
Yeah.
get what I mean? So I'd say for somebody like that's making a new genre, that's starting a new wave, if you can hop on with a big international artist like that and get that big feature, e.g. Tyler and Travis Scott, you know what I mean? The song was already big. The song was already big, water. But when Travis Scott got on, it started making money. You see, they saw a gap in the market.
No, I
So
understand
that's where it comes in, and in that case, you need to have your lawyer. You need to have a lawyer with you. You can know everything. You'll still need a lawyer there with you, present in those type of discussions and those type of deals, because you're not going to be speaking to Drake. You're going to be speaking to his lawyer.
No,
Yeah.
I get that. And also, in terms of properly assimilating us with these separate platforms, so I wanted to ask, can you walk us through the process of going on your computer, logging into the Samro or the Capasso, the Sampro portal, and registering a song, and also logging the collaborators, the songwriters that you need to split with? What is that
Right.
like engaging in that user interface?
Right.
Because that might also confuse some people. There's a whole bunch of videos explaining how to actually register it on the portal.
Yes. Look, I think I registered my only reason I'm saying is because it's like I'm so used to it already. It shouldn't be that hard actually. I registered my first song I think in 2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010, 2011. So the nice part is if you go to the court in Braamfontein, Johannesburg, Sambro's head office is right there. You walk in, they give you a sheet that you fill out. You put your home address, your phone number, email, stuff like that. It's exactly the same on the website. They'll ask you for your bank details, and sometimes they do email you, or most of the time they email you documents to sign and fill out, and then you have to send it back to them. So I was lucky. I was in college when I was studying sound engineering in Braamfontein. I could just walk around the corner and go there whenever I had the chance. So you just get your bank details, your proof of residence, simple, like a job application. Just think of it as a job application. You're applying for a job. So every notification you make, and you can make multiple notifications. You can make 10 or 20 songs. You can send in on a day 100 songs if you want to. The only thing that gets tricky is once it's sent, it will just say your notification has been listed, and there's nothing. You don't hear from Sambro, you don't get an email, you're just listing the music on there. And every now and then you'll get a notification from Sambro, oh, we've noticed you've made some we've noticed activity on your account type
Okay.
of thing. But the process is very, very self-explanatory, especially for Sambro. Sambro is very easy: name, surname, phone number, home address, bank details. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And what about when they don't come back to you saying,
Mm.
we've noticed activity? Is that when, because we mentioned earlier
Mm.
that when the royalties are collected from all these different
Mm.
organizations, there's a schedule in which they pay you out.
Mhm.
So let's say the next payouts were
Mm.
on the 30th of September.
Mhm.
Let's say after the 30th of September, I don't get any money,
Mm.
but I've seen my song gaining traction online, on streaming services,
Right.
and things like that. Is that when I have to
Yes.
individually go to Samro now and say, what's the activity on my account? Where are my royalties?
Right. So no, definitely in a case like that, there is Radio Monitor. It is an app that tracks your listens and your plays on radio. It's very good. I think Roger Good or someone actually he promoted it quite some time ago. Because he had an issue where Sambro wasn't paying him out. He was getting paid like 10 rand, 5 rand, or something like that. So there is a process where you can actually get hold of one of them and have an email like conversation and say, look, this is what I've done, this is the place I have, and you can calculate how much royalties you are supposed to get. You know, without them, you can actually calculate it on your own. There is many sites that help you with that. And you can send that and query it. So you just lay a complaint or lay a query like, hey, this is what I think should happen. Can you please send me a report or invoice? And yeah, you query it. Somebody will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days. If it takes longer than that, I'd suggest phoning them or ask for a supervisor.
Yeah.
You know, it's your work at the end of the day. Treat it like contacting Telcom. You know,
Yes.
you know, look at it like that. Like you have to contact these people every now and then, and make a query and find out what's happening. Especially if you know you have a song that's making major traction. Um, what I can say is there's a lot of like how can I say bad rep when it comes to getting money from Sambro, and I agree. I the years that I've been with Sambro, I haven't really gotten anything from them. You know, you have to fight, and it's an uphill battle. That's when you know when people say, "Oh, you're in music, you must have passion for it." You know what I mean? You need to know why you're doing it. But musicians' bread and butter is with performances. So just to notify everyone, when you do have a performance, you need to send a notification of your performance to Sambro as well, and say, okay, I was at this bar. This bar is registered with Sambro as well. Yeah, so that like if your music is played at the club or whatever, they need to be registered with Sambro as well.
Okay.
And once you've done your set, maybe you're a DJ, you perform for 2 hours. This is the songs that I played. So all those artists that played, they must get their royalty split. And you as a performing artist, as a DJ, you get your royalty split.
Okay.
So there is a portal on the Sambro portal. There's notifications, and then you also get notifications for performance. So usually people leave that empty, and then they were performing last night or they were rapping last night. But our industry is a bit slow because not all companies are registered with Sambro, especially like bars and restaurants and stuff like that. And we always have people singing and doing their thing outside of bars. And I always think, is this guy getting paid? You know?
I get that as well because
Yeah.
even with me going to restaurants and stuff, one thing I noticed, especially back home, they'd play popular songs, but it wasn't the original masters. They would play like these royalty-free covers of them. That's when I'd ask myself, are they just ducking registration and something like that to not pay royalties? But outside of that, you mentioned something interesting. You said if you performed your song at a live place, you're entitled to royalties. So the performance royalties that Samro does give you, does that also include the artists performing their own songs themselves, or is
Yeah.
it just broadcast and external?
Yes, DJs make a lot of money with performance royalties. Like from my understanding, a lot of DJs they list their sets and send it through, so they make money as a performing artist. Yeah. So if
Okay.
you singing at a bar or you're just doing covers and so on, we can actually go and send that through and get it registered as a performance for that day at a
Okay.
specific place. You know what I
I
mean?
understand.
Not just your notification. You
Mhm.
know.
I see that, but in that case, would they need a paper trail of like probably a physical agreement between you and the establishment in order for it to be legitimized? Or can
Right.
you simply say, I performed my songs
Mhm.
at this bar, at this establishment, are they registered? Where are my royalties?
Right. So in a case like that, the bar that you're performing for, they would have a registration number. So
With
when
Samro.
yes,
Okay.
and you can actually use their company registration number and list it as a notification there that I performed at this company. So Sambro can go and check up the company. Oh, it is a real restaurant, and so on, and then you get compensated.
I understand, but what
Mm.
actually like legitimizes that process is the
Mm.
fact that they're registered in itself an automatic means of entitlement to royalties,
Yeah.
or
So they need
oh,
to register that yes, I'm a bar. We play music. We get artists to perform. So they register with Sambro as like we are an institute that allows artists to perform.
yeah,
So that's how it's supposed to work. Not all
oh,
companies do that. Not everybody knows even about it. Yeah.
oh, okay, I
Yeah.
understand. And when you say that's how it's supposed to work, are you talking specifically to businesses who maybe
Yeah.
aren't registered or aren't licensed, or simply do whatever they want in terms of public performance around music?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is exactly directed at them. Yeah.
Okay, and now that you guys see us looking forward, we're currently at the end of our show. So that being said, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming here. It was very informative. I loved talking about
It's a
musical
pleasure.
education and things around business and things like that. So I also wanted to say to artists watching this, the next coming episodes, we're going to be expanding around musical education, registration and compensation, and more specifically news related stuff that you need to know as an artist. But other than that, I'm Mulo with Stephen Thomas, and this is the
Thank you.
Beats Buzz hosted by Big Little at Bush Radio, and we're signing out. Thank you.